Okay, so tell me, do you think it's harder now to find a good job? Although there, at least as I know, many people are looking for good jobs, and especially in tech right now, people are losing their jobs, right? We had the
Yep.
great resignation like 2 years ago, and now it's going to the other direction after,
Mhm.
at least what I know, tech companies are firing many people. Do you think it's harder or not?
Uh, in some ways, I think it's harder because the volume of candidates and the volume of noise is a lot more than, or it seems to be a lot more than it ever has been before. That's the downside. I think the plus side of all of these revolutions that we've been seeing is that the amount of change and churn and disruption that's out there is also breaking apart the traditional hierarchies that kept people outside. So what I mean is, in the past, you could be a CEO or a COO and be up in your ivory tower and only talk to people who you reported to, etc. But when you're dealing with an environment where, let's say, 30% of your team is gone, you don't know what the hell's going to happen in a year from now, you don't have that luxury, which means you have got to start bringing in other points of view, other mirrors in some sense, right? By the way, that's what I'm talking about in terms of a way that you can provide value here. So if that's the case, right? Uh, the opportunity would be to say, okay, there is more noise, but the way I'm gonna counterbalance that noise is through differentiation, going the exact opposite. Like if everyone has an MBA, don't go for an MBA, right? Look for that thing that you're a nerd about. Look for that atypical piece of training. Look for that thing that's actually going to give you something differently than the 10 million other people, right? So ask yourself, how do I differentiate? And also, how do I utilize this technology in an advanced way? You've probably heard about applicant tracking systems and the rest. Here's a dirty secret. Our clients and maybe the top 5% of people out there, not only do they not worry about that, our in-house platform, for example, it uses LinkedIn automation. LinkedIn has a secret program called the Snap program. That's a sales navigator application program. What that does is for a certain amount of enterprise partners, you can go in, link your LinkedIn account to it. We'll set up all the messaging. We'll figure out who to target. We'll say exactly what you need to say to maintain that power. You don't have to spend 1 second on that. You just focus on the calls, the relationships, the opportunities, right? And so everyone else is sitting there being like, hey, 90% of the time, my application is getting bounced here. And the only reason you continue to do that is because you think everyone else is doing that, right? But what I'm here to tell you is the only people who are doing that are the people who don't know any better. And I'm not judging that, by the way. My dad spent the better part of like 3 decades in one company, did an amazing amount of work at Bell Helicopter. Never understood why he was never able to rise past a certain level of relatively low management, right? Until many years later, we started having a conversation, and he's like, Anish, I never understood what you were doing, but I understand looking at it now. I understood that there were signals that they were expecting me to send that I never even knew to send, whether I was aware of it. And because I didn't, it kept me in a box. No matter how well I did, it kept me in that box, you know? And so I have a very personal reason for that because I see people like me and you every day, and it honestly doesn't matter how good you think you are. I see very qualified, amazing people getting totally screwed over and people getting amazing rewards. And the only difference is how courageous they're willing to be and how strategic they're willing to be about this part of the process.
So what you're talking about is actually getting to the right people
Hmm.
within the organizations
Yep.
and starting to communicate with them and provide them value. And
Yeah,
then you
absolutely.
might find the right constellation and the right solution how to collaborate in the future.
Yeah, but you'll definitely, if you do this right, you'll, and the first time I get to know someone, a little rule of thumb I use is I look for at least 2 or 3 moments to either challenge or illuminate something differently. In other words, this conversation, it, I can think about no matter how badly I want an offer, I can take that off the table because for me, if I do this right, I'm going to get insider information about what's going on in this industry in this company. That's information, by the way, I can leverage for the next conversation, the next relationship. I can exchange deep value in terms of what's going on here. And if I have these moments, if I can move it into a deep place and illuminate it, just me being able to see what you're experiencing as a leader and applying my process, my way of it, is giving you massive insight that you never would have had, right? So I can walk away from that knowing, dude, I can recapitalize this relationship 5, 10, 15,000 times. And a lot of times, by the way, I've secured offers from conversations where, look, there's no offer whatsoever. In fact, we kind of scrapped a little bit, But then like a month later, 2 months later, it'll be like an email being like, hey, Anish, I just want to say thank you for kind of not letting me get away with that crap there. I ended up thinking it over. I made a couple of changes that I think are there, and just anyway, I owe you something. All right. So if you need any help, whatever, this is how you build a career. This is how you actually do this by getting into a place where you're helping, you're abundant, you're building like these people that I'm talking about, right? I never looked at them as prospects, and that's part of the reason that this thing really worked for me. Like the people I got to know through this process, they taught me how do you um, have a family. I've got 3 kids, but I come from a completely dysfunctional family. So how do I do that? I learned it from these people. How do you invest? I learned it from these people, right? How do you travel? What's a good way to do it? I literally looked at these relationships from every aspect of the way that it would value me, right? I didn't just put you into a box of one way that you can serve me, and if not, get the hell out of here, right? So, do you dare look at people that way? Do you dare help people? Because I promise you, if you do that, the pain that we're talking about, look, one offer is nothing in enterprise terms. Whatever your dream thing is, whatever amount you have in your head, by the way, of like some crazy amount that'll do it for you and your family, it's absolutely nothing in terms of enterprise terms. But you've got to get there the right way. And you've got to start by also depersonalizing this by saying, oh, because it's $20,000 more, $30,000 more, I got to keep my head down. No, that's a reason for you to go double. That's a reason for you to really, really own this stuff, right? But yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think if you move into this zone of saying, I can't lose, right? Either I'm learning or I'm identifying pain, which I'm then using the pain as the follow up and the pretext for where we go, right? Those are the only 2 things that are possible here. And if there's no third for me, because if it doesn't go in 5 minutes, I picked up on the signals.